continuation of talking about the suspension of judgment. And where we left off, we were talking not mitosis, but Sextus Empiricus. Empiricus, excuse me. And we've been talking about basically two notions that he was throwing around. One, the notion of mental imperturbability. And secondly, the theme we're exploring right now, the suspension of judgment. I'm going to get through a little bit more of specifically what Sextus Empiricus says, and then I think we can move on to a little bit of Zhuangzi as well. So to refresh, mental imperturbability, ataraxia. I mean, mental imperturbability doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. What does that mean? Well, sort of a freedom from being perturbed, all right, or distraught by the fact that we don't know something. So remember, the skeptics, like the Stoics, like the Epicureans, like the Cynics, all see themselves as echoing what Socrates already did. Now, did Socrates distress that he didn't know something? I know one thing, and that is that I know nothing. He didn't seem to be bothered by that. Hence, don't be disturbed by the fact that you don't know something. That's okay. Okay, even though you're pursuing knowledge. Okay, this is every PhD candidate I've ever met. All right, working on their dissertation, all of a sudden comes to the realization, I don't know as much about this as I thought I did. Okay, you might have had that experience before. Even where you feel knowledgeable about something, there's this. It's okay not to know everything, not to have all the answers. That does not entail, therefore, well, why even bother? That's not what's being said here. Okay, but don't be disturbed by the fact that you don't know something. Someone asks you a question even, it's okay to say, I don't know. But we don't like to do that. We give an answer, we call it bullshitting, yes? All right, where we give an answer even though we don't really know what the answer is, and I need to say something so there's not this empty space. It's okay. Secondly, don't come down, this is suspension of judgment, don't come down on an explanation just because you hear it. You don't have to automatically accept an explanation. When I'm talking here explanation instead of, I think today people would use the terms like we've used them before, meta-narrative, ideology, worldview, paradigm. I think those are all not equivalent, but they're synonymous enough. So like a big picture scenario. I don't really think they have that in view. They would look at it as an explanation or a dogma. Now what does the word dogma mean? I hear it a lot. Or it's related to, these two terms often come together, and I must say I scoff usually when I see them in a denigrated way. Both of these have a common root. It happens to be Latin in this instance. What does it mean to, here we go. Well, let's go with the, maybe the easier one, because dogma, both of these I've seen come up a lot lately with things. What is, let's start with indoctrination. What does it mean to indoctrinate someone? What's indoctrination? I saw it in a tweet yesterday by the President of the United States.
It's like induction. Induction?
Well, I could say, yeah, induction would be a kind of synonym too, because think of the Latin would be ducere, literally like a duke, to lead somebody in. So I think you could say induction or to induce would be a synonym. I think that's fair. But that doc in there, what does that doc mean? What's a doctor? Not a physician. I mentioned that last time. Not a physician, but a doctor. What is a doctor? Yeah, an expert. Okay, there's a lot of doctors in this building that you don't want to go to for medical advice, right? All right, Dr. Dennis can tell you all about rocks, okay, and make some nice jokes. That's nice with a G, okay, but but I wouldn't go to him if you're having, I don't know, intestinal issues. Because the to be a doctor is to be a teacher. That's what it means. Okay, doctorate, to teach. So what does it mean to indoctrinate someone? Literally, I'm indoctrinating you right now. Not that I'm making you cultural Marxists. That's not a thing, by the way. Okay? Not that I'm doing that. But it means to teach. That's literally what the word indoctrinate means, to teach. Now, it has a pejorative connotation of, trying to, brainwash or something like that. But literally, the word just means to teach. So what is dogma then? It's got that doc in there. They're related. What is dogma? It's just teaching. Teaching as a noun, not teaching as an activity. Okay, so what is dogma? The teaching of X. This one also has a negative connotation as well. And it's almost, for whatever reason, it's almost used exclusively with religious content, typically with Christianity. We don't talk about Islamic dogma. And often, even there, specifically I hear it with Roman Catholicism. You don't really talk about Protestant dogma. There is dogma, but it's not there. Just teaching. But we could also talk about Platonic dogma. What's the teaching of Plato? What did Plato say about the world? And usually when we talk about dogma is the teaching, like the beliefs of, that various groups would affirm. And it's the things that they would affirm as true, like the whole package deal, all right, the big explanation. Okay, so you can think of dogma as kind of a synonym for worldview or paradigm or meta-narrative, all those kinds of things as well. That's fine. Not exactly the same, but that's fine. So what does it mean to dogmatize? If dogma is teaching, what does it mean to dogmatize? We can talk about someone being dogmatic. Does that mean they really like teaching? Sure, the teaching, but what does it mean to dogmatize? Not just to teach others. That would be indoctrination. That's just to teach others. What does it mean to dogmatize? To continually, not only to affirm, but to, here's another fun word, proselytize. That is to say, what does it mean to proselytize? A lot of words today. Right? What does it mean to proselytize? You don't want to proselytize means this. You don't want to simply say what I believe is true. When you proselytize, you want to say, what I believe is true, and you should believe it too. That's proselytization. Okay? You don't want people, we're not just, I want you to hear what I have to say, I also want you to agree with me and affirm that not only what I'm saying, that you get it, like what I'm saying, but that it's true as well. Okay, that's dogmatization. Okay, to do this. Like, not only are we going to affirm these things are true, but other people should believe it. There are certain systems of values and truths where people would say, yeah, this is what we affirm, but we don't necessarily proselytize or dogmatize or make others believe it as well. Okay, and there are other ones that do. Just objectively. Okay, then. Is the skeptic dogmatic? And Sextus Empiricus continually wants to affirm, no, because that's not what we do. Skepticism is not a belief system. It's not a teaching, capital T. It's a method, not a teaching. And that's what he wants to, and that's part of what suspension of judgment means. Okay, because we don't get into dogma. We'll learn about teaching, like what did Plato say? Let's learn it. That doesn't mean I have to be a Platonist. Let's learn what the Christians say. That doesn't mean I have to become a Christian. Let's learn what the Jews say. That doesn't mean I have to become a Jew. Like, get the facts straight. Get the teaching right, what they're saying. Get it correct. But, and you don't have to make fun of it, but that doesn't mean you have to buy into it either. Neither are we trying to get people to get into skepticism in that way, because skepticism is not a dogma. This will cause you to be much more relaxed. Because otherwise, when we dogmatize, we get very frustrated. Because, we talked a little bit about this last time. Is it inherently and intrinsically easy to persuade others of our dogmas? No. That long blog post you wrote about why your view is correct, all right, published on Medium, okay, is that going to persuade anyone? Anyone going to read that for the first time and go, yep, I agree. I'm completely going to change my life. Has anyone read, this is Soren Kierkegaard talks about this as well. All those fancy arguments for the existence of God. Has anyone ever really been persuaded by them upon a first reading? Reading, say, Thomas Aquinas' Summa Contra Gentiles. Anyone, oh, yep, God exists. I had no idea until I read this paragraph. No. It's not persuasive in and of itself. And that's why people get frustrated when we're trying to convince others, here's why you're wrong. There's a holiday coming up, after which we will not return, where often it's Thanksgiving, where, it's almost become a running joke that there's going to be some kind of familial conflict. We don't, I'm just going to try and keep quiet and not talk about politics or something like that. Okay? Whether or not that be the case in your own family or not, it's at least, assumed that's going to occur. We'd be a lot less frustrated, Sextus Empiricus is telling us, if people would, not just you, but if everyone would just lay off. Suspend your judgment, because the reason why we get so mad in arguments sometimes is because we have this view that we must be right. And not only that we must be right, but you must be wrong because my position is correct, especially the big explanatory positions. It is correct, and you should believe it too, and you don't, so you're stupid. It's going to cause frustration. Let's take a look at specifically what he says about how skepticism is not dogmatic. This is in this book, 304. This is on the outlines of Puritanism. How to translate that title here? General principles. Sure. General principles. I can live with that. Chapter 7. When we say that the skeptic does not dogmatize, it is not the more common sense of that term dogma, according to which, as some say, to dogmatize is just to approve of something. Last time I talked about the 3 different types of knowledge. Okay. Notitia, assensus, fiducia. He's saying, some people might refer to teaching as just kind of, mere assensus. For the skeptic, assents to the states forced on him as a result of a presentation. For example, when he feels hot or cold, he would not say, I seem not to be hot or not to be cold. That's not skepticism. Okay, that thing where people joke about, how do we know we're not in a dream right now? Can you prove it? How do we know this isn't a simulation? That's not skepticism. Okay, that's shrooms. Okay, not skepticism. Okay, and you can take a look at Jean Baudrillard. There are positions, simulacra and simulation. You can take a look at that. But he's saying, that kind of stuff, that's not skepticism. I feel cold. Do I really feel cold right now? That's not skepticism. When we say that the skeptic does not dogmatize, we are using the term dogma in the sense according to which, as some say, dogma is the assent to something non-evident, investigated by the sciences. There it means the pursuit of knowledge, not science like this building. So now listen to that carefully. The assent to something non-evident. That's what skepticism is. So those big picture explanations, whether it be God did it, that would be one. That's not immediately evident. I could think of people that would say, Thomas Aquinas would say, things like that are obviously self-evident. All right, we're not immediately evident. Or not just that, consider the existence of, say, atomic theory. Are atoms self-evident? Apparently, according to modern atomic theory, we're all comprised of atoms, yes? Show me one. Anyone? Is that self-evident? That atoms exist? And even if you could zoom in, by the way, remember, atoms don't have any subatomic particles don't have any mass because of bosons. So, I mean, if you could zoom into an atom, you wouldn't see anything. There would just be like a hydrogen atom, there would just be a negative charge spinning spherically around a positive charge, but you wouldn't see anything. Somehow, though, you put a bunch of these together, there's matter. That's predicated on a theory that is not self-evident. That is, it is not immediately obvious that's what's going on, right? That's a kind of dogma, too. So skepticism, oh, wait, that's what's going on here? Okay, tell me more about it, but I don't have to sign up for it. You might have good reasons to, but I don't have to just because I hear it for the first time. That sounds neat. Where do I sign up? But that's what he says dogma is, the assent to something non-evident investigated by the sciences. For a Pyrrhonist, that's another word for skeptic, never assents to anything non-evident. Further, he does not dogmatize even when, in regard to non-evident propositions, he offers the skeptical utterances, no more of this or that, or I determine nothing, or any of the others concerned, with which we will later speak. For the one who dogmatizes posits as being the case that about which he is said to dogmatize, whereas the skeptic does not posit these utterances as unconditionally representing that which is the case. So the dogmatist says, here's things, like it's this, there are atoms, God did this, whatever it is, and it's always assumed in the presentation, and this is true, and it's correct, and if you don't believe this yourself, you are wrong. To which the skeptic goes, I can't follow along with that last part. And I'm okay with that. And maybe this stuff is true. That's what the actual skeptic does. Where I think I could think of a modern skeptic, again, like Michael Shermer, or Richard Dawkins, those kind of types, would automatically say at the outset, no, this is stupid. The ancient skeptic goes, maybe it is true. I don't know. But I'm not going to come down on that one way or the other. I'm not going to give it my immediate approval. Neither am I going to give it my immediate disapprobation either. And go, nope. Let me hear it out. That's ancient skepticism. He's telling us precisely that. So I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to suspend my judgment. For the one, let's keep going. Put that in mind there. For the one who dogmatizes posits as being the case. The one who is dogmatic says, this is true. This is really how it is. That's the end of that paragraph. The most important point of all is that in making these utterances, he expresses that which appears to himself, and he reports the state he is in, but he does so undogmatically. That's the skeptic. And he commits himself to nothing about any underlying external things. All right, no commitment to underlying external things. That's suspension of judgment. That's what it means to be a skeptic. I don't play for that team. All right, tell me all about it. But I'm not going to sign up for it. More formally, I'm not going to offer a particular subscription or subscriptionism to some view when it's not immediately evident. Now we've talked about systematization before too. Does the skeptic have a system? Oh, again, modern terms, worldview, Weltanschauung, okay, paradigm, ideology, any of those things? Chapter 8, page 305. He says this is a similar question. Do we have a system, a systematic view? The Platonists have their forms. The Aristotelians have their entelechy. The Christians have their God. The Stoics have their logos. The Jews have their Hashem. Do we have some, singular principium, some principle, some arche that we look at? Well, we take a similar approach when asked, has the skeptic a system? If by system one means commitment to many dogmas having logical connections with each other and with appearances, like a creed, a credo, a systematic, like a summary of beliefs that are all interconnected. That's what a system is. Or systematic beliefs. Well, if that's what you mean by system, a commitment to many dogmas having logical connections with each other and with appearances, And by dogma, one means assent to something non-evident. We will say the skeptic has no system. So if you got a bunch of interconnected beliefs about things which are non-evident, then nope, we don't. We don't do that. So if a skeptic goes around doing that, they're not a skeptic. But if by system one means a method which follows a rational procedure based on appearances, that rational procedure indicating that it is possible to seem to live rightly, for rightly is interpreted not only as living in according to virtue, but also in a simpler sense. And encompassing the ability to suspend judgment, we will say that the skeptic does have a system. So if by system you mean like systematic metaphysics, systematic theology, like a big explanatory system, no, we don't do that. Do we have like a system, like as a method for what we do? Yeah, we do. So if you want to go about it that way, it depends on what you mean. So if you mean big classic system, no. But I mean, do we do things in an organized, rational way? Sure. And this, again, this is kind of this is a ancient world PR piece for skepticism because it keeps getting denigrated by others. He's also distinguishing himself from what's called academic skepticism as well, the skepticism of the academy in Athens. Page 307, chapter 12. He then says this. So what's the telos? What's the goal? Why do this? What's the point? Literally, that's the question of that chapter. What is the goal of skepticism? Following these matters, we ought next to explain the goal of the skeptical approach. A goal is that for the sake of everything which is done or thought about, the goal itself not being for the sake of something else, or it is that which is ultimately desired. We say most definitely that the goal of the skeptic, what's the point? Listen to this. What's the point of skepticism? To upset your parents? To upset others? To instigate confusion? To be countercultural? Remember Socrates was charged with corrupting the youth? Yeah, let's corrupt some youth. Is that the goal? What does he say? Look at the goal. We say most definitely the goal of the skeptic is the freedom from disturbance with respect to matters of belief and also moderate states with respect to things that are matters of compulsion. For the skeptic, having begun to philosophize in order to judge presentations and to try and grasp certain things as true or false, so that he could attain freedom from disturbance, tripped up on the equal weight of incompatible claims, thereupon not being able to make a judgment, he suspended judgment. The goal of skepticism is, period, the suspension of judgment. The echo key. Hold on. When thinkers, philosophers, those that are knowledgeable, philosophers, scientists, those in charge, make themselves into, what they do into kind of a cosmic jurisprudence, that's an error. When I say, this is how it is, I'm 100% correct. Now, that kind of skepticism is still sometimes maintained in science. Those of you who have been philosophy of science before will remember this. Okay. We've gone through several different scientific theories, yes, over time. But we make the mistake sometimes of saying, this is definitely true. This is how it is, we got it, we nailed it. It's true. Like, what if I did this today? Someone says, I'm not feeling very well. Well, here's what you should do. Get some leeches, drain some of your humors, you'll be fine tomorrow. What seems to be wrong with that prescription? Well, it's predicated on a theory of humors, which we no longer have, yes? Well, I don't, maybe some of you do. But that was medical science 500 years ago. Right? We know there aren't humors. I think I just read, was it last week some scientists discovered like a new organ in the head? or some new gland or something like that. I don't remember what it is, but they discovered, like, here we are, we've been, cutting up human beings for really thousands of years, but really examining them carefully for the last about, 400 or so. Discovering new things. Do we have an accurate and adequate picture of the human mind, or the human body, excuse me? Really, I could ask the question about the human mind. Do we understand how the mind works? There's no mind, there's only brains. Okay, explain to me your phenomenological experience then right now. The fact that you're experiencing something happening. Consciousness, can it be explained in terms of binary code or something like that, or synapses firing? Kind of, but not exactly. Doesn't explain the experience. So we can have, but as soon as we say, no, this is what's happening, this is how it is, a skeptic would say, well, maybe that's one perspective. But if you come down on it and say, this is how it is, expect to be disappointed. Expect to be frustrated, because scientists will always find, this is what happened, even, I'd say, Newton's theory of gravity. I've gone to this one before because I think it's a good go-to on this one. Does it work? Kind of. Remember Newton's 3 laws of motion? Anybody name one? They still seem to work. Okay, an object at rest will remain at rest unless acted on by an external force. Force is mass times acceleration. The famous one, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Physics! Newtonian physics. He also had a formula for gravity. We don't talk about that one as much. Why? Because it only works sometimes. Well, if it only works sometimes, would you get in a car if the brakes only worked sometimes? Roll the dice. Ooh, snake eyes. Guess I'm going to crash today. I guess to some degree that's always true. Don't think about that too hard. Newton's theory of gravity only explains gravity in a mundane terrestrial way. It doesn't explain extreme high gravity or extreme low gravity. You need Einstein for that. You need Einsteinian gravity for that. But that's why, if we came down and said Newtonian physics is it, this happened in the early 20th century. All of Einstein's, no, that's wrong, that's stupid. Because it goes against Newton. Isaac Newton, remember apple on the head Newton? He can't be wrong. And there was an experiment, the Eddington experiment in 1919. Okay, you were seeing a star behind the sun. Well, if Newton's right, then that shouldn't be able to happen. And it's not that, but this is just it. It's not that Newton's right and Einstein's wrong, or that Einstein's right and Newton's wrong. It's that, are they right or wrong? And the answer to the question is yes. That sounds like something out of Chinese philosophy. Okay, the answer, which one's right, this one or this one? Yes. To come down hard and say one way or the other, this is the correct view, this is it, period, will lead to frustration, because sometimes the apparatus in view can explain certain things well, but not everything. That's why suspend judgment. And the scientist or the thinker ought to do this. Some kind of explanatory apparatus might be appropriate in one domain, but not in another. And I think we'll see this with Zhuangzi as well. So I'm going to transition to talking about Zhuangzi to explain this point of suspension of judgment. Now, Zhuangzi never used, he's not a skeptic, obviously in the Greek sense, and he never uses the phrase suspension of judgment, but I nevertheless think that some of his attitudes echo some things that Sextus Empiricus was saying, and I actually think Zhuangzi was earlier in time. But let's see what he tells us. Now, I'll say this. Zhuangzi's collected writings, called also the Zhuangzi, are a little bit different from anything we've encountered so far in terms of writing. They're much more like little parables. They're like little stories, of which often Zhuangzi is the star. Okay, but it's not like when and Zhuangzi is considered a Taoist, but he's doing something a bit different from what we saw in the Tao Te Ching. So I'll just say they're like these little story episodes, almost like little cartoons in written form, that are attempting to make certain points about the way. Zhuangzi. If you Google Zhuangzi, you might get the old way, the Wade Giles way of putting it. That's the same guy. Just in case you look it up and you're like, Zhuangzi? Zhuangzi. Same guy. So Zhuangzi writes the Zhuangzi. What does he tell us? Now I'm going to skip around a little bit in the Zhuangzi because there's different episodes I want to encounter. I actually think I want to start with maybe the most famous one. I'm going to start with the most famous one because, or at least my favorite, maybe not the most famous. Because I think it's indicative of just doing something completely different. Let's actually start with his wife died. Okay, this is in this, 247 in the Zhongzi. This is chapter 18. So I'm going to start with chapter 18. I'm going to work my way around a little bit. Do some episodes. Now, first, I'm going to say on a prima facie reading, when I read this passage, I think that the immediate conclusions you might have might line up more with, Epictetus than Sextus Empiricus. So you'd be like, you might read this and go, this sounds like the Enchiridion. Let me read it, and then let's see what interpretations we can draw from, or what lessons we can draw from it. Okay? So here's a story where it's Zhuangzi writing it. Zhuangzi is the character. Okay, now, is this something that actually happened to Zhuangzi? Probably not. Okay? But it's a parable for us. So, chapter 18. Perfect happiness. Okay? I'm just thinking happiness. We've explored this question before, but consider this. When Zhuangzi's wife died, Huizi came to mourn her. At that moment, Zhuangzi was squatting down, beating on a tub, and singing. So, I mean, I like to envision, Zhuangzi like taking a bath, just, like drumming on the, all right, just completely going to town, having fun. Okay, that should be a jovial picture. Zhuangzi is having a lot of fun. Now, what just happened to him? Yeah, his wife died. It seems like he's the murderer. Okay, no, that's too much to draw from there. But yeah, he just seems like he's having a good time, even though his wife died. Now, his wife died at some point I think it's been a while, but Huizi is coming from a long way to mourn. The good Confucian thing to do. So, which is part of the point of what Zhuangzi is making here, is that Confucian stuff about proper ritual, it's not going to bring you happiness for sure. Huizi said, "You lived with this person, raised children, and grew old together? Not to cry when she died would have been bad enough, but to beat on the tub singing. How dare you? Isn't that too much?" Zhuangzi, ever the one to give a lesson, said, "No. When she first died, don't you think I was like everyone else? But then I considered her beginning before she was alive. Not only before she had life, but before she had form. Not only before she had form, but before she had qi." Right? That's basically the Chinese concept of essence. Okay, before there was even an inkling in the cosmic imagination of Tian. That essence, that's what qi is. In all the mixed up bustle and confusion, something changed there. Something changed and there was qi. The qi changed and there was form. The form changed and she had life. Today, there was another change and she died. It's just like the round of the 4 seasons, spring, summer, fall, and winter. She was resting quietly, perfectly at home, and I followed her crying. It seemed like I hadn't comprehended fate, so I stopped. Now, I'm pretty sure when it says today there, I don't think it means literally today, but I think it means in this age. So I don't think she died that day. But still, it's just an illustrative story. It's not something true. Now, like I said, upon a first reading, I think it sounds kind of like what Epictetus was getting at. Okay? Remember, if your wife dies, she's been given back. Okay? If a loved one dies, it's been given back. It's going back to the world. Don't let your emotions mess with you. So I think one could read this and get that superficial connection. Oh, it sounds like Epictetus. No, because this person is not, it's not that they're not feeling. Okay. Zhuangzi is doing what? Drumming in the tub and singing. This is celebrating. Not celebrating that his wife died. I want to make sure that's clear. Okay. What realization did he make? Well, sure, and I think this is not the main point here. Less about, of course, the chi or energy things coming and going, coming into being, passing out of being, and being the same substance. That's an interesting metaphysical lesson. Sure. But the main thing I want to get at is this. What did Huizi do? The person that came to visit.
He judged them. He judged them.
Yep. How could you, again, he came in and immediately made a judgment without a full sense of what was going on. Right? Now, it might even seem obvious to you. Have some respect, man. Your wife died. Get it together. But he had not considered what Zhuangzi had already internally went through. Coming to this interesting, sure, metaphysical realization of the world, everything is going in and out of being. Such is the way. That's really the conclusion being reached there. Right? Things come in, things come to pass. That's the way. Life just flows like this, like the seasons. Okay? When the leaves start falling down, as they are right now, and it starts to get a little cooler, I don't start to, everything's dying. Nothing. It'll be like eternal, the eternal autumnal. No. Yeah, things are going to get, trust me. In a couple of months, there'll be yellow clouds all over everything. Okay? You'll have to wipe your car off before you can even touch the handle. Okay, it'll happen. Spring will come again. Okay, all things being equal. So, that's just like this. Our lives do the same thing, passing in and out of death. That's fine, that's well and good. But he came to that realization. But Huizi's lack of wisdom was not suspending the judgment there, but coming to an assessment of a situation and putting it all together and saying, making a declaration about it. This is the point. When you come to a situation, you don't have all the facts or all the details. Hold off. Maybe at least inquire. Hey, why are you doing that? I think, okay, I read a lot of children's literature because I think it makes good points off. Has anyone ever read the book, The Story of Dr. Dolittle? Okay, Dr. Dolittle goes to Africa. He's in the kingdom of Jalaginki. Okay, he's about halfway through the book. And immediately the king of Jalaginki throws Dr. Dolittle into prison because the last time someone from England was there, they killed all the elephants, and took the tusks, and took all the gold. Dr. Dolittle is there to treat some monkeys with a vaccine, okay? Truly, those are his intent. I don't care about gold. Believe me, he doesn't care about money. He's an idiot with money. Okay? But immediately the king made a judgment. You're obviously here to kill my elephants. I'm really not. I'm here to help. Mm-hmm. Jail you go. If he had just asked, why are you here? Maybe he should, and maybe if that's what happened the last time someone from England was there, that seems a reasonable precaution to take, for sure. But to come down and say, this must be the case, is an error in judgment. Okay. That's the error, is judging or assessing a situation with immediacy, and sometimes we do this on automatic. Right? We see a situation, we sum it up and go, this is what happened here. When we don't know. And we do it in our daily lives just as equally as we might do it in a laboratory. Keep that in mind. Okay, so we have to look at, is there another explanation possible here? Sometimes we'll say that definitively. This is the only explanation. Well, how do you know? And that how do you know question, that's the one I really want to go to next. If I can find it in here real quick. Let's go back a little bit. Where's my butterfly? Oh, there we go. Page 224. This is what I really want to go to. About suspending our judgment. and having kind of a skeptic with a capital S, but having a skeptical attitude. And here, really, that means kind of taking ourselves out of a situation and trying to look at things in a new way. Here, this is page 224. The end of chapter 2 there. One night, Zhuangzi dreamed of being a butterfly. So if you Google Zhuangzi, I think in the image search, butterflies will still pop up for that reason. So he's associated with butterflies. One night, Zhuangzi dreamed of being a butterfly, a happy butterfly, showing off and doing as he pleased. Unaware of being Zhuangzi. Well, if Zhuangzi dreamed he's a butterfly that doesn't know that he's actually Zhuangzi dreaming that he's a butterfly, is it really Zhuangzi? That's an interesting question too. And scholars have done that. That's an interesting point, but what do I really want to look at this? Suddenly he awoke. Drowsily, Zhuangzi again. He's no longer the butterfly. Ugh. You ever come out of a dream and you really thought it was real there for a moment? It took you a moment to click. Nope, here's reality again. And he could not tell whether it was Zhuangzi who had dreamt the butterfly or the butterfly dreaming Zhuangzi. But there must be some difference between them. This is called the transformation of things. What's the point there? Now, I said earlier when I was talking about Sextus Empiricus, Empiricus said, okay, skepticism is not, the going ahead and jumping on to the approbation of things that are not self-evident, right? And I gave a couple of examples of things that are not skepticism. I'm saying, I feel cold. I'm actually not cold. I said that's not skepticism. What's different here? Okay, so I'm Zhuangzi. I dreamed that I was a butterfly. How do I know I'm not the butterfly having this dream right now? Reminds me of Descartes worrying about his evil demon. Meditations, book 1. But here, how do we know this? Zhuangzi's answer is, I don't. And that's fine. How do you know I'm not a butterfly? He says other things about fish. Okay, but maybe I am a butterfly. And this is my dream. This is my butterfly dream. Prove me wrong. Now the point is not to say, he's not saying, I am a butterfly. Okay? That's not what he's saying. I've seen some people take it that way. He's not saying, I am a butterfly. He's saying, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know, but I can't come down definitively one way or the other. I have this experience, but maybe something else is going on beyond my experience, and recognizing that is the transformation of things. Maybe the way that I see things is not things as they are. It's not saying that they are or are not, but just maybe, throwing a maybe in there. That's this Taoist skepticism, that there is a possibility that the way that we think things are could be otherwise. It need not be necessity that things are the way they are. Let's take a look at a couple others. Other things that I want to say about Zhongzi, because these, it's almost like I have to follow it up. It's wisdom literature of sorts. So I have to stop and go, just let the reader understand. 209, the end of chapter 1. Little knowledge does not measure up to big knowledge. Or few years to many. How do I know this is so? The morning mushroom does not know the waxing and waning of the moon. The hui cricket does not know the spring and fall. This is because they are short-lived. South of Chu, there is a turtle called Dark Genius. which counts 500 years as a spring and 500 years as a single fall. In high antiquity, there was a tree called Big Spring, which counted 8,000 years as a single spring and 8,000 years as a single fall. Nowadays, only 800-year-old Pengzu is famous, and everyone compares themselves to him. Isn't it sad? All right, this is another one. You can just superficially read all of it and go, okay, he's talking about trees, turtles, and mushrooms. What's the point? What is the point? Okay, and I can't believe this says that this tree lives 8,000 years. There's no way that's true. Calm down. What do you say about the mushrooms? Break it down. What did he say about the mushrooms?
They are aware of the world around them.
What's that?
They are aware of the bigger things around them.
Yeah, and do they even make it? All right, do they even make it all the year round?
No.
No, right? They're here for a little while and they're gone. Okay. No sense of different seasons. And it's just completely outside of the domain of their existence. Whereas the tortoise, on the other hand, lives a long time. Right, that's what it means when it says it counts 500 years as a spring. There's never been a 500-year spring. Metaphorically here, okay? Lives a long time. Okay? Such that the passing of the seasons is so regular, it's more like for us the passing of a day. Okay? But the experiences that we have here on the ground, so to speak, here on terra firma, okay, the experiences that we have here, we assume that the experiences that we have is it. That our experience, and I don't just mean that we take our anecdotal experience and then universalize it, that for sure is true. But that we take our little tiny, it's like almost like we have a lantern in the dark, and we say, here it is, my little experience, this is indicative of all that there is in the universe. Slow your roll there, human being. Okay? This little lantern you've got in the dark is not necessarily all of it. Suspend your judgment. Okay? If we went to the mushrooms universe and came down, here we are in our little mycelial universe, is this going to be indicative of all there is? No. And even you're like, I've lived a long time. You're no turtle. Tortoise. Tortuga. You can't compare. All right, now are those tortoises? Is Dark Genius living its best life now? I don't know. But my lifetime won't compare. I'm not going to be living 1,000 years. My sight is limited. So don't take this appearance, the Greeks have the word, phenoros, all right? Don't take this appearance as everything that there is. Because it's not. Necessarily. Got to throw that in there. It's not necessarily. So, for the sake of time, I'm going to stop there. Next time I'm going to say a few other words about Zhuangzi. But after I do that, we'll actually be prepped really for the final question. So from